Meanwhile, I'll start. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, as per your time zones, excellencies, dignitaries, eminent speakers, experts, and online audience. I welcome you all to this high level policy dialogue on fostering collaborative efforts to protect receding glaciers, organized by India Water Foundation in partnership with World Meteorological Organization and Mountain Partnership of the United Nations to commemorate the World Water Day, and it becomes more enjoyable and pleasurable to have you all here, especially since today we are also commemorating India Water Foundation's 17th founding day. The melting ice from glaciers worldwide is leading to an increased loss of regional freshwater resources, and it is causing global sea levels to rise at even greater rates. Since the year 2000, glaciers have been losing 273 billion tons of ice annually, according to estimates by an international research community. From 2000 to 23, the global glacier mass lost total 6,542 billion tons. This loss contributed 18 millimeters to global sea level rise at an annual rate of 273 billion tons or 0.75 mm yearly. With this, glaciers are currently the second largest contributor to global sea level rise, after the warming of the ocean and before the contributors from the Greenland ice sheet changes in land water storage and the Antarctic ice sheet. For some areas, melting ice will compromise drinking water resources. For others, it will impact agriculture or aquaculture. So, how do we address this complex and multifaceted crisis? What are the impacts and potential solutions across countries and communities? To analyze the same, we have organized this event bringing together thought leaders and experts from across sectors, multidimensional organizations, government to deliberate and serve as a space for discussing recommendations and gather support and commitment for joint action towards a more resilient world. To initiate this session, I request Dr. Arvind Kumar, President, India Water Foundation, to set up the tone for this evening. Dr. Kumar is a strategist and key influencer in development sector with more than 28 years of experience as an author, columnist, water activist, and specializes in concepts like ecosystem-based adaptation, water energy food nexus, with specific emphasis on transversal approach of interlinkages between water, environment, and SDGs. Dr. Arvind Kumar, please.
Good morning, everyone. From Geneva, Shri Raj Bhushan Chaudhary ji, Minister of State, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India. Shri Bharat Lal ji, Secretary General, National Human Rights Council of India. Ms. Sonja Koppel, Dr. Ignacio, Dr. Stefan, Ms. Sara, Dr. Farooq Azam. Today, we are organizing this crucial policy dialogue to celebrate the World Water Day with the focus on receding glaciers. Apart from that, we are pleased to commemorate India Water Foundation's 17th Foundation Day today. In this journey of 17 years, I can proudly but very humbly mention that our inputs were instrumental in initiation of several missions and programs in the country, like the Water Sanitation Swachh Mission, Health Mission, Poshan 2, Nourishment Mission, and many more. We are one of the few civil societies who envisaged bringing northeastern states from periphery to mainstream and witnessed the trajectory of growth and development of states like Meghalaya, Sikkim, etc. as a partner in progress. We are committed to work collectively with like-minded organizations and government to provide vital support to communities, foster local, national, regional, and international partnerships for development. Today, we have all assembled here to deliberate on the conservation of receding glaciers. Giant freshwater reservoirs, they support the planet's life systems and influence our day-to-day lives, even for communities who live far away from them. However, glaciers are disappearing. They are posing hazards to people living downstream. Glacial feed lakes can breach their marine drains, causing catastrophic floods, hazards, seems to be increasing in the same place as glacier lakes expand as a result of the glacier sinkage. Many of these rivers uh, coursing through China, India, other part of the Asian continent are feed largely by snow melt from the Himalaya. But in late summer, a significant part of the river flow came from melting glaciers. In South America, residents of La Paz, Bolivia, rely on glacier melt from a nearby ice cap to provide water during the significant dry spells. They sometimes experience. It makes tangible the current climate change that can be hard to perceive in other ecosystems. Since the early 90s, many glaciers around the world have been rapidly melting. Human activities are at the root of the phenomenon. This phenomenon, significantly since the Industrial Revolution, carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions have raised temperature even higher in the poles. As a result, glaciers are rapidly melting, calving off into the sea and the retreating on the land. Even if we significantly curb emissions in the coming decades, more than a third of the world remaining glacier will melt before the year 2100. When it comes to sea ice, 95% of the oldest and thickest ice in the Arctic is already gone. Closer home in the Himalaya, Karakoram and Hindu Kush mountain ranges of South Asia, the pace is even faster than the global average. Experts estimate that 80% of the region's glacier will disappear by the start of the new century. This loss would mean a dramatic reduction in the amount of water availability for drinking, growing food, and combating disease. However, scientists believe that despite the massive ice loss, we do still have time to save the glaciers from their predicted disappearance. In order to curtail climate change and save the glaciers, it is indispensable that global CO2 emissions to reduce by 40% over the next decade, and they will fall to zero after 2050. The world is gradually coming to terms with the fact that it cannot avoid the impact of climate change. Climate adaptation and mitigation capacities are dependent on a country's economic means. Addressing the climate crisis requires more than a business as usual in the area of food security, the environment, and the sustainable development more broadly. When we cooperate on water, we create a positive ripple effect, fostering harmony, generating prosperity, and building resilience to shared challenges. The only way to perceive glaciers preserved as an important resource for the entire planet is for all government to collect cost correct with the national determined contributions, fully consistent with the 1.5 centigrade Paris Agreement limit. It will require global cooperation, especially in data sharing, uh, educate funding and capacity building, particularly in regions like Central Asia, where glacier loss led to significant water security challenges. We must mobilize concessional financing while developing new sources of financing such as carbon and capital markets, blended finance, and risk transfer solutions. Of course, there are limits to the prevention of losses through adaptation, and more need to be done to reduce carbon dioxide, methane, and other emissions. We must act upon the realization that water, whether is glaciers, surface, or ground, is not only a resource to be used and completed over. It is a human right intrinsic to every aspect of life. All the dignitaries and expert speakers share their perspectives, and I'm sure these interventions shall enable us to chart out some concrete recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for your very timely intervention, which has given an overview of the what is about to come in the 1 hour that is going to precede this discussion. My next speaker is the chair speaker for this event, Shri Raj Bhushan Chaudhary ji, Minister of State, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India, to give his chair address. Uh, I would share the screen, please, with you.
Namaskar. I am honored to address you today at this important occasion focused on glacier protection. As we know, the United Nations has declared 2025 International Year of Glaciers Preservation. This allows us to discuss this frozen river of ice store vast amount of fresh water, sustaining our rivers, supporting our ecosystems. In India, the Himalayan glacier holds particular significance as they are the source of our major rivers like the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, and the Indus River. These rivers serve as lifelines, providing water for agriculture, industry, and household across the Indo-Gangetic plains. Approximately 70% of our planet's freshwater exists as snow or ice, making glaciers essential for supplying water to millions worldwide. If all mountain glaciers were to melt entirely, the global sea level would rise by 32 centimeters or 13 inches. The state of our glacier is alarming. Since 2000, mountain glaciers worldwide have lost more than 6,500 billion tons of ice, constituting about 5% of their total mass. In India, the situation is equally concerning. Studies reveal that the number of glaciers dropped from 756 to 646 in Arunachal Pradesh alone between 1988 and 2020, resulting in a loss of over 300 square kilometers of glacier area. The Himalayan region is warming at a pace faster than the global average. In the eastern Himalayan region, the temperature have risen by zero point 0.1 degrees Celsius to 0.8 degrees Celsius per decade. This accelerated warming is causing our glacier to melt at an alarming rate. The effects of glacier melt are both immediate and long term. In the short term, we are experiencing increased water flows, which can result in flooding and disruption of river system. These floods significantly challenge our infrastructure, including dams and irrigation system. However, the long-term effects are often more concerning. As glaciers continue to recede, we will observe reduction in water flows. This will result in drought and impact agriculture, hydropower generation, and groundwater recharge. The seasonal flow pattern of our river will shift, affecting when and how much water is available for various uses. Our agriculture sector, the backbone of our economy, is at serious risk. Approximately 70% of India's agriculture industry depend on glacier-fed river for irrigation. The extreme heat of 2022 severely impacted Indian agriculture, with wheat yield dropping by 10 to 34% and maize production decreasing by 18%. A reduction in glacier flows could further threaten our food security in future years. Our energy generation is experiencing some challenges. Changes in river discharge caused by glacier melt are affecting our hydropower plants. After 2050, the Satluj River basin may drop in meltwater contribution, impacting agriculture and energy production. Plus, we are facing increased sedimentation from melting glacier, which is shortening the lifespan of dams like Bhakra Nangal, which is our essential structure for our water storage and power generation. Melting ice leads to formation of glacier lakes, heightening the risk of glacial lake outburst flood. These floods can severely harm downstream communities and infrastructure by causing considerable destruction to lives and properties in mountainous areas. Furthermore, the melting glaciers contribute to rising sea level, which exacerbates coastal erosion and endangers the livelihoods of coastal inhabitants. Additionally, the thawing ice may release previously encapsulated pathogens, resulting in unknown impact on biodiversity and human health. Researchers have identified viruses and organisms dormant in ice for thousands of years might reactivate as the ice thaws. The Ministry of Jal Shakti is wholeheartedly dedicated at tackling these challenges. In 2023, we proudly launched the Center for Cryosphere and Climate Change Study at the National Institute of Hydrology in Roorkee. This center is committed to nurturing our snow and glacier resource while also addressing the critical concern about future water availability. We have set up a steering committee chaired by the Secretary of Department of Water Resource, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation to coordinate our glacier-related activity across the various ministries and create a smooth process for mobilizing resources from glacier studies. We also happily collaborate with other ministries, including the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, to protect the green cover in the Himalayan region. This effort is vital for reducing the effects of climate change in glaciers. We enthusiastically support research and monitoring initiatives, often partnering with agencies like ISRO, which closely monitors the Himalayan glacier to forecast future water availability. We need a comprehensive approach to tackle the challenges posed by glacier recession. We must enhance our monitoring of glacier and river system to understand better the dynamics of glacier recession and its effect on water resources. Implementing efficient water management practices to optimize available water resource is essential, ensuring equitable distribution for agriculture, industry, and domestic needs. To this end, the Government of India, through comprehensive initiative, have funded research projects via the Department of Science and Technology, including the Network Program on the Himalayan Cryosphere under the National Mission on Sustainable Himalayan Ecosystem to investigate glacier dynamics and their impact on water resources. ISRO implies remote sensing technology to monitor glacier and predict potential glacier lake formation, thereby aiding geological safety planning. The Geological Survey of India conduct mass balance and secular movement studies to evaluate glacier recession pattern. The Ministry of Jal Shakti prioritizes efficient water management for equitable distribution across sectors. Furthermore, the National Disaster Management Authority has developed guidelines for managing GLOF with emphasis on preparedness and mitigation. This initiative aims to enhance our understanding of glacier dynamics, improve the management of water resources, and mitigate environmental impact. We can effectively tackle this major issue by significantly reducing greenhouse gas emission. We must support global effort to slow climate change and diminish the rate of glacier melting. This problem necessitates international cooperation. The International Year of Glacier Preservation enables countries to collaborate in safeguarding these vital resources. The accelerated melting of glacier is a striking illustration of the impact of climate change. It highlights the necessity to bolster climate action to preserve human livelihoods and ensure ecosystem integrity. As we confront these challenges, our collective responsibility is to safeguard water security. I urge all of you to protect our glacier, secure our water future, and foster a more sustainable world. Thank you. Jai Hind. Namaskar. I am honored to address you today at this.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us, throwing light on the government's efforts toward conserving the glaciers. We are really obliged by your presence and taking out your time. Now I invite Shri Bharat Lal for the keynote speech for today's event. Shri Bharat Lal, a former civil servant with over 3.5 decades of distinguished public service, is the Secretary General and CEO of the National Human Rights Commission of India. His career has been defined by pioneering initiatives in good governance, human rights, public service delivery, environmental conservation, and sustainable development, making impactful contributions to improving quality of lives and dignity, and ensuring protection of the marginalized and vulnerable communities, including women and tribal populations. Shri Bharat Lal, please.
Thank you, Shweta ji. Once again, good morning to all of you. I hope I'm audible.
Sir, you are audible, but the volume is a little low, but you are audible.
Yeah, I tried to keep it as near as possible but I think there are some issues. But
no problem, sir. We can hear you.
I'm hopeful that I'm able to convey you. So thank you, Honorable Minister. I think it very, very profound remarks. And let me compliment India Water Foundation and Arvind ji for organizing this meet and bringing all of us together at single platform and share our views. As the theme of today's discussion, today's webinar has, fostering collaborative efforts to protect receding glaciers. So I think two things we have identified that yes, melting of these glaciers, an issue. It is happening and it has become an issue. It impacts people, it impacts ecosystem, it impacts lives, it impacts livelihood. And B, I think it requires some kind of collaborative effort. I think there is this recognition, and on this World Water Day, in the wake of this thing, I think selection of this kind of topic is very timely and very pertinent. As you all know that today, availability of water is a basic, fundamental human right. And kindly appreciate for a moment that a country like India, our Indian subcontinent, take India, 1.44 billion people, ensuring water availability for drinking, domestic, industrial, agriculture. I think pretty very challenging task. Be that in our context, out of 1 year, hardly 15 to 20 days are rainy days. And almost half of the country, India, is dependent on glaciers for their water security. The whole Indo-Gangetic Plain, one of the most densely populated areas or region of the world, actually. And imagine if you see the Himalaya, our third pole, what we call, that almost 2 billion population is dependent on this third pole. And we have already, I think, crossed 1.5 degree, Celsius, rise in temperature. We all have witnessed that kind of, glacier melting, accelerated melting, glacier lakes formation, flooding taking place, and in long term, basically drought. I think here the kind of people assembled here, the scientific community, the researcher, and the audience. I think you know all those kind of. But let me put just two things actually. A, that for any country and especially for this kind of country, 1.44 billion people, water security is one of the most basic thing. One of the most basic thing. Our national security is linked. Our food security is linked. Our environmental security is linked, and lives of people, their livelihood is linked with the water. In fact, we have seen in the past that in Western India, in some region, paucity of water had become limiting factor in our socio-economic development and as well as economic growth. In fact, Gujarat is one of the finest example where basically our economic growth has gone down to 1.98%. For 5 years period, 1997 to 2002, it was 2.8%. In fact, 2001, it was minus 4.78%. And one of the major reason was paucity of water, shortage of water, because people had to wait for 6-7 days for once half an hour or 45 minutes, water will come in their pipe. No. Forget about for agriculture, forget about industry. So we have seen that. And kindly appreciate that in this region, when we have three major basins actually, Brahmaputra, Ganga and Ganges and Indus. So dependence on glaciers cannot be, overemphasized. But the second most important part is that along with glaciers, I think we also need to, from two angles, A, that in the catchment, the forest areas, because they must be protected. And I think when we are talking in the terms of climate, I think forest conservation on one hand, protection of forests, and B, basically greenhouse gases emission. I think we have to identify these two challenges. If we are able to tackle these two challenges, we can reduce melting of glaciers and this kind of catastrophe. I think worldwide we all have seen that recently in Alaska, the kind of, in India, Sikkim, we have seen that kind of, glacier lakes formation and, So what India is doing basically, this two-pronged strategy. A, protecting, conserving forest. And as you know, that forest is a good carbon sink. So this is the one part. And second part is basically how to reduce greenhouse gases, whether it's a automobile sector or it's a solarization. I mean, a number of steps have been taken since you all are basically well enlightened people and you are in the, these things I'm not enumerating. But these are the two strategies have been adopted. But the most important part which India has done, and I think there is a lot of lesson for that, that trying to make it basically a people's movement. People should become aware, people should take up this as their problem, their challenge, then they start contributing. So water conservation or water as such, or forest and wildlife conservation, or land, eco restoration. This has taken a kind of movement, and our Prime Minister has given a basically, in last 10, 11 years, I think he is leading in from the front that people should get involved. And in fact, people's activities are basically promoted and highlighted. In fact, one of the steps India has taken that in every village, formation of village water and sanitation committee, what we call locally, collectively, Pani Samiti, that 10 to 15 member water management committee, which is basically essentially giving power to women, where more than 50% members are women actually. That given tremendous power to women because it is their stake. Water security is always linked with their lives and their livelihood, because in our condition, basically, women are responsible for fetching water and ensuring water to everybody. But second important thing is that in forested area, in Himalayas and in other places, a kind of joint forest management committee or those kind of concept has been introduced. So it means people's involvement. In fact, what we call river mitra, river friend, or nadi mitra, concept of Ganga mitra, Ganga, So idea is that involve people, make them center of the whole activity. It should not become a government program. And the third dimension of this whole activity is that a people movement, then institutional arrangement. There is the subcommittee of the local self-government, what you call Pani Samiti. But third dimension is that involving civil society, NGOs, academic institution, research institution, basically, and this scientific knowledge should get basically mainstreamed in our programs, our plannings, and our activities. Take one of our very famous program, Namami Gange. So you will find that scientific institutions are involved, NGOs are involved, basically academic institutions involved, community is involved, and this collective action is helping us, So far as the disasters is concerned, basically, because of glacier lake formation or because of climate change, I think we all are witnessing, and India is no stranger to these. So my only emphasis is that I think if people like us are able to advocate to policymakers, to, let's say, state governments, local self-government, the government officials, that whether it's a glacier melting or because of climate change or disaster or scarcity of water or flooding, I think it means solutions are there. And solution is that we have to protect forests, conserve forests, but more importantly, we have to involve people and we have to take immediate note and start working on it. Please understand, in Indian situation, when we have almost in Indo-Gangetic plain on river Ganga, only on this river system, 600 million people are dependent for their drinking water, for their agriculture, for economic activities, other economic activities. Please understand that any kind of reduction in flow, I think, plays havoc with the life. Please understand, in average in India today, as on date, when we are sitting out of 1.44 billion people, 46% people are involved in agriculture for their livelihood, and 70% population of this country, 1 billion people, are dependent on agriculture. Kindly appreciate. So for us, stakes is very high. Of course, their contribution is in the economy is only 18% in the GSDP. That is a different dimension. But the dependence on this water, the water security is so important. The climate change is so important for India. Protecting glaciers is so important that they are the perennial source of water. I think I need not to emphasize. So my only thing is that we all have to work together. And in this process, I think advocacy at the government level, to involving different government, different players, whether it's industry or businesses or local community, that is one aspect of our work. But second thing is that we should also this information sharing. I think, as you all know, that I think across the countries, across the organizations, and across the civil society, sharing of information. Whatever research and whatever we are doing, I think that is one thing we would like to do, and we would like to work together more. Then third thing is that community involvement. Community should be kept at front, basically, and they can take. In India and Nepal, I think we have seen a number of action actually. In one of the states, Himachal Pradesh, we have seen that people have started basically collecting water at, let's say, middle Himalayas, 6,000 feet, 7,000 feet, basically, they are collecting water and storing it, actually. That kind of mitigation effort they are taking. In Ladakh, one of the highest, 11,000 to 14,000 feet, basically, there people are preparing, ice stupa, actually, During winter, they will collect ice and store it, and basically during summer, they will use it because of, this thing. In Nepal, I think that kind of, glacier monitoring is going on. In Sikkim, basically, we have faced that kind of problem because of accelerated, melting of glaciers, we have seen those kind of flooding and those kind of devastation. So I think those kind of community involvement is going on. Second thing is that skill development basically for conservation. I think skill is mostly linked so far is basically for entrepreneurship and job, livelihood and industrial activities. But I think we need to impart training and skilling to our people basically for different activities related with conservation, and that is basically glacial monitoring, public engagement through knowledge, through science, through data with the people, and of course trans-border training program. Basically, we can Then next, which we are thinking about and working on, basically, it is capacity building and strengthening institutions and communities. Basically, we have to work and we have to, there is a different kind of transboundary water management models, or community-based adaptation strategies, or investment in basically Cryosphere Research Network. I think we have to work on that. The fourth point which we would like to collaborate and would like to advocate is climate resilient infrastructure and innovative funding models. Actually, that there are many countries and many regions where basically we need innovative funding. Actually, and I think this is one of the most important part of now it is more relevant because of a number of regions, and some countries are getting out of this. So important. So basically, investment in disaster resilient infrastructure, and as you have seen that India has gone ahead and promoted this kind of coalition of disaster CDRI, actually, the International Solar Alliance, Green Biofuel Alliance, International Big Cats Alliance. So India is promoting, actually, because this is our way that whatever knowledge, whatever information, whatever we have, we will use it for ourselves, but we'll be sharing with rest of the world. Because I mean, I would not like to repeat too much on, but please understand this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that whole world is one family, is not for heck of saying. It's a belief, because we all know that climate, India might not be the contributor of in greenhouse gases and those things, but I think one of the countries which is facing, there are so many island countries which are facing those kind of problems. So I think we understand the universalities of these challenges, and we would like to work on So this climate financing gap, actually, I think we have to keep on hammering. We have to keep on working. That is one area. Then disaster alternatives and response, basically, is strengthening early warning and risk reduction. In fact, India has done a lot of work basically in disaster management. It has developed a very good act, actually, an institution at nation level, state level, the district level, and the village level, or panchayat level, what we call local self-government level. This information we would like to share, and the system which have been developed, we need to work more, actually, on advanced early warning system as well as case studies. In fact, one of the very famous cases here, my colleagues Shweta and Arvind, Dr. Arvind is here. They will tell you about Chamoli disaster, actually, in 2021. So there are, we can learn from each other. In Sikkim, we can learn from each other, or if you go international, Alaska, in fact, I was reading just day for yesterday again, I was just refurbishing. I think there is a lot of learning in that, Then regional cooperation, basically, because it's a reality that, yes, melting is taking place. So it means in flood management, especially in this kind of situation, I think we need to share information, learn from each other. In India context, it's in Nepal and Bihar, we have seen that kind of thing, or Bangladesh and India, we have seen that, Then, of course, the most important thing is that addressing climate issues, basically to de-accelerate, or slow down the glacier retreat or glacier reduction. I think that holds the key. That is the key for everything, and I think that requires a kind of, whether it's a carbon emission reduction activities or advocacy. I think we have to, this thing. But in a country like ours, we also have to work basically on agriculture. That in agriculture, whatever the gases are, animal husbandry, I think we are already working, and a lot of work is being going on, including crop diversification, and so those kind of things are happening. Well, energy wastage is one area which we have to work, and I think we all have know that I think in this area, developed world has to contribute a lot. Developed world has to contribute a lot. I think let's accept our responsibility, and we should be in position to reduce energy wasted. Actually, India has taken a huge leap on energy transition to clean energy, and our mining of glacier areas, our circular water economy, all those things we have taken. And we will, this kind of meet and other meets where people like us coming together for advocacy and international advocacy, for global advocacy, whether it's at a regional level or I think we should. Lastly, I think time has come when we should be thinking about some kind of legal protection for glacier, for certain glaciers in certain areas. In India, in fact, there are some judgment have been given actually. Glaciers in India, one of the high courts basically, Uttarakhand High Court has given a wonderful judgment where basically glacier has been identified as a human being, as a person. It means certain rights have been given actually. It's a very innovative judgment actually. In fact, if you go through, it's a very innovative judgment. So it means there is a need and there is a scope for some kind of legislative framework, some kind of for protection of glaciers. So I think, I mean, with these points, I would like to close my remarks. And once again, I thank Dr. Arvind Kumar and Shweta and all of you for bringing everybody together. More importantly, that sharing our views. And I look forward to listen to other eminent people, other domain experts. And only one thing I can promise that for such cause, actually, long-term partnership, this partnership, building this kind of partnership, working together, sustaining it, keep on investing in this kind of, thing, that is the way forward. So far as National Human Rights Commission is concerned, as I said in the early, we consider water. We consider that water availability is a basic fundamental human right. That is the first thing. And second, we acknowledge that this water security is threatened by climate change. This is the one of the most profound emerging challenge to human right, apart from cyber and other issues. But climate challenge has become one of the biggest challenge for people to enjoy their human right. So I thank all of you and wish you all very best. Have a wonderful time ahead and look forward to hearing you. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your nuanced perspective and keeping water strategies and management in the country in a very micro and also in a very macro level. So thank you very much for taking out time for us and for your keynote speech. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Stefan Uhlenbrook, Director, Hydrology, Water and Cryosphere Branch, World Meteorological Organization. His main expertise includes water management, hydrological processes, and modeling across scales, floods and droughts, and the water energy food ecosystems nexus. Among other things, he works towards strengthening the early warning systems for floods and droughts, as well as water resource assessment and management worldwide. So, Stefan, please.
Thank you so much. I would like to share a few slides. I'm sharing my screen. If you could confirm that it's visible, that would be helpful.
Yes, we can see your screen. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, dear moderator, Your Excellency Minister Chaudhary, Excellency Secretary General Lal, President Kumar, dear colleagues, friends of glaciers, I'm happy to say a few words about this important webinar today. I will mainly refer to the work that is done currently by the International Year for Glaciers Preservation, and I'll come to that in a minute. Well, after all these presentations or kind of speeches, it may be good to just remind us with looking at a few pictures, how beautiful they are. And I think they receive a lot of media attention also because of the beauty. They're often seen as an icon of climate change. Secretary General Lal just explained us the importance of the climate dynamics, how that impacts glaciers. And you really can see the retreat over years, and that is very visible, and therefore I think it gets a lot of attraction. We celebrated on Friday the first World Glaciers Day, and our communication officers were absolutely flabbergasted how many interests we had from the media for glaciers. Yeah, it's very, very important to have. Where are they? Here you see a global distribution. I borrowed a few slides from my colleagues at the World Glacier Monitoring Services, and you see here the 19 or 20 different regions around the world. And you see that particularly also in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, we have quite a number of glaciers, and they're also very important. Globally, we have some 275,000 glaciers, adding up to an area of 700,000 kilometers square, which is maybe twice the size of Germany. But important is also to note that the enormous ice masses we have at Greenland and Antarctica are actually not included in that. However, when we say that 70% of the fresh water is contained in snow and ice, that includes the ice masses from Greenland and Antarctic. The status is bad, as it was previous speakers already mentioned, and let's look at this figure here. I mean, bad in terms of there's relatively good consistent data since 1976, and we see negative mass balances are dominating, particularly since the 90s. Many more negative mass balances, so the darker the red, you see the annual mass loss. The thinner lines are the seasonal winter and summer balance, but you see that overall the balance is very negative, particularly during the last years, it become more and more negative. If you look at the 10 years with the largest negative mass balance, it was 7 out of the 10 years were just in the last 10 years. Also, you see this on this figure, and you see globally, if you accumulate all the melt coming only from glaciers, again, this does not include the ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctic, it adds up to 9,000 gigatons of water. That is really a lot in this mass change. If you would put all this water above Germany, then you would have a column of water which is a bit more than 25 meters high. So you see really enormous amounts of water were melting away. Obviously, this has numerous downstream impacts. It has impacts on the hydrological dynamics, on floods and droughts. It has impacts on food security. I think the critical importance of the Indo-Gangetic plain was explained by President Lal, which is absolutely critical, but also irrigation is critical in this region. And without the contributions from the higher mountains, not only the glacier ice, but the whole higher mountains and the snow is, of course, critical for the irrigation demand management, also downstream areas. Also impacts for irrigation, for energy supply, etc. Globally, we see that it's actually in all regions of the world, we have negative mass balance now 3 years in a row. And that is remarkable. That is really melting everywhere. So there's no excuse anymore to say, well, some regions gaining glaciers, or so which is incorrect when we look at the data. Some regions are extremely vulnerable. Here you see the Central European area, particularly. We had a very dry, not so good winter during the years 2022 and 2023, and very warm summers in 2022, 2023. And only these 2 years led to a total mass mass loss or volume loss in only 2 years for 10% of the Swiss glaciers, which is enormous. 10% in only 2 years. This led to the resolution that was mentioned a few times today from the UN General Assembly. It was also based on the initiative of Tajikistan. I would like to mention that, which led to this International Year for Glaciers Preservation, which is co-facilitated by UNESCO and WMO, but many others are involved. I come to that in a second. And the main objective is to raise awareness about the critical role of glaciers, as well as snow and ice in general, in the climate system, as well as in the hydrological system. And as mentioned before, changes in the dynamics here have multiple implications for the economy, for people, and the environment. The year is an opportunity to raise awareness. And last Friday, we had 3.5 hours of an event on glaciers at the UN in New York. So it's a fantastic opportunity to raise awareness also to countries and highest level policymakers. The year is mainly co-facilitated by WMO and UNESCO. However, many are involved. We have more than 200 organizations involved. Here you see the main task forces. The first task force is led by Sara, who will, I think, speak just after me, from FAO Mountain Partnership. And you see here the names of the other other task forces, which are very active, and some 200 plus organizations are involved in these task forces, supporting the year designing conferences, capacity building efforts, supporting research and monitoring, as well as policy and advocacy. In terms of events, we just had last week the World Day for Glaciers. First time we celebrated that, and therefore also today we have this webinar. We had the World Water Day, which is also on high mountain systems. And we had World Meteorological Day on Sunday. Actually, at WMO, we celebrated it yesterday here in Geneva. And you see, as a major event is the conference in Dushanbe. Would like to mention this, and there's many other regional and national and global events, and maybe India also will convene some and will let us know. One more thing, and then I close. We have a very active website. You find a lot of information there, including the key messages when it comes to glaciers preservation, which are there. And don't want to go through this in detail, but go there, find this. You also find a lot of material about short movies or other information which you might find useful either for advocacy or research purposes, as well as policy advice. We have also a policy paper there which introduces the year for policymakers, which you can all just find all on the website. With this, I would like to close, and thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for presenting us these charts and pictures and showing us that actually this is a very serious concern, and it's high time that we all come together to address this. And already this mountain partnership is doing its task, and they have various partners, and I'm sure India Water Foundation would also love to be a part of this initiative. My next speaker today is Ms. Sonja Koppel. She leads the water team at the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and serves as a secretary to the Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes, and co-secretary to the UNECE WHO Europe Protocol on Water and Health. She has worked for more than 10 years in the Secretariat, for example, coordinating the activities on climate change adaptation. Sonja, we have the video presentation from Sonja, so I would be sharing it with you.
Happy World Water Day. This year's theme of World Water Day is preserving glaciers. Glaciers are melting faster than ever, which threatens devastation, water scarcity, and much more. For billions of people, meltwater flows are changing, causing floods, droughts, landslides, and sea level rise, and damaging ecosystems. For countries sharing transboundary water resources from glaciers, sharing knowledge, data, and strategies for water conservation is key to managing the impact of glacier melt on a regional scale. With 60% of the world's freshwater flowing across political boundaries, transboundary water cooperation is essential for regional stability, climate resilience, sustainable development, and conflict prevention. As climate change impacts increase and exacerbate, there is now an even more urgent need to unite around water. In the Asia-Pacific region, human-induced activities and anthropogenic and human-induced climate change are posing a critical threat to the mountains and glaciers. Integrated solutions that increase the region's adaptive capacity and resilience while reducing pressure on glaciers and water ecosystems, as well as global climate change mitigation, are vital. Transboundary adaptation efforts have demonstrated the benefits of regional collaboration. Building on this progress, strengthening of transboundary cooperation approaches that synergize water sector policies with broader climate and social environmental objectives is useful. As also written in the World Water Development Report 2025, focused on glaciers and water towers, transboundary basin organizations such as the Dniester Commission in Eastern Europe, the Chutalas Commission in Central Asia, the International Commission for the Protection of the Danube River, the International Commission for the Protection of the Rhine River, as well as the International Fund for Saving the RLC, pay increasing again considerable attention to mountains and glaciers in the overall basin management process, as well as in specific thematic areas of cooperation, such as in adaptation, conservation, flood management, and monitoring. Discussions in these transboundary organizations, where knowledge and experience are exchanged, help to stimulate activities at the national level. At the global level, 2 United Nations Water Conventions support countries in improving their transboundary water cooperation. Firstly, the 1997 United Nations Water Courses Convention. Secondly, the 1992 Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes, or in short, Water Convention, serviced by UNECE. The latter, Helsinki 1992 Water Convention, which has currently 55 parties, plus more than 20 countries in the accession process, and 130 countries participate in these activities. It provides an important intergovernmental platform to accelerate transboundary cooperation and increase capacity. For over 30 years, the Water Convention has helped countries and shared basins to jointly adapt to climate change, share data, reconcile competing sectoral demands, for example, through guidance development, capacity building, global exchange of experience, and pilot projects. For example, on climate change, since 2006, the Water Convention has supported countries through guidance development, exchange of experience, a global network of basins working on climate change, capacity building, etc. For example, just last week, we organized a global workshop on flood management with participants WHO and other organizations. Or we support countries also in jointly adapting to climate change, such as in the two Talas basins shared by Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia. Here, at the request of the countries, we have supported them in developing a transboundary agreement, in setting up a basin organization, and in prioritizing and implementing some climate change adaptation measures. I invite you to make use of the different tools of the Water Convention and attend our events. Together, let us further promote transboundary water cooperation and glacier preservation worldwide for the benefit of current and future generations. I wish you a successful event today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonia. And I think we would all definitely like to use the tools that she has mentioned. My next speaker is Ms. Sara Manuelli, Advocacy and Outreach Officer, Mountain Partnership from FAO. Her background is in social anthropology and journalism. She is the author of several books and articles published in technical journals and the media, focusing on sustainable mountain development. Since 2008, she has worked at the Mountain Partnership Secretariat at FAO, where she develops and implements strategies to raise awareness about mountain regions and their communities. Ms. Sara, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellencies and distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor to join you today for this high-level dialogue. I'd like to thank the India Water Foundation for organizing this very timely discussion on the global implications of glacier retreat and water security and how we can increase our collaborative efforts. If I may, I'd like to just share a few slides. So let me see if you can see them. Can you see them?
Not yet.
We cannot see your screen, Sara.
Can you see it now?
We can see, yeah, now we can. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, because I can't see. Let me see here. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about the Mountain Partnership, first of all, for those who don't know it. It's the only multi-stakeholder United Nations alliance of governments and organizations dedicated to sustainable mountain development. We have today 670 members, of which 68 of governments, a lot of what we call major groups that include a lot of other intergovernmental organizations, NGOs, private sectors, and academia. The Secretariat, as was mentioned, it's hosted by FAO, and it's supported by the governments of Andorra, Italy, Switzerland. Since 2022, when we were formed, we have really been working together with our members to drive the mountain agenda, and FAO is the leading UN agency for mountain issues. Just to perhaps give you a bit of a background of how far we've come on the mountain agenda. So a refresher that the first time mountains and sustainable mountain development were really mentioned was at the 1992 Rio Earth Summit with the Chapter 13. Since then, a number of conventions and treaties were founded. The Alpine Convention was the first one. We had 2 International Year of Mountains in 2002, and again 3 years ago in 2022. And the Mountain Partnership was founded, the Carpathian Convention, and the Andean Initiative. These are all, together with the African Regional Mountain Forum, very important alliances. Some are treaties, some are conventions, some are just transboundary mechanisms to raise the awareness of the mountain agenda and sustainable mountain development, and largely to look at also transboundary cooperation. In 2023, at the end of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, at the UNGA was proclaimed the 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions. And this is, we are in it now until 2027. And it's really the framework under which we work to raise the flag for mountain issues. And of course, we've spoken about it today and throughout the year. This is the International Year of Glacier Preservation. What we do is really work a lot at the global level, work on the main advocacy processes. Again, these are some of the events that are happening this year that we're not working on. Is this not moving? So is my slide moving?
No,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry. I apologize. I was looking at the wrong screen. Just to give you an idea of the main advocacy processes where we have we are raising the flag for International Year of Glaciers, but also sustainable mountain development. And of course, there's the whole UNFCCC framework under which climate change issues are discussed, and we work tirelessly with Mountain Partnership governments to raise the agenda for mountains. As Stefan mentioned before, there's various events throughout the year, but one where we're particularly working will be the International Conference for Global Mountain Dialogue for Sustainable Mountain Development in Bishkek on the 24th and the 25th of April. Another dialogue, which will also be a global dialogue on mountains and glaciers, will be held in Nepal on the 16th and 18th of May, Kathmandu. As part of the International Year of Glacier Preservation, there will be the high-level International Conference on Glaciers Preservation in Dushanbe. FAO there, in collaboration with WFP, will be holding a pre-conference forum titled Agriculture in a Time of Glacial Loss. And for those who are in New York, the high-level political forum is yet again another chance to raise awareness for mountain issues and glaciers. And FAO, the Mountain Partnership, also lead the observance every year on the 11th of December of International Mountain Day. And the theme, to coincide with the International Year of Glaciers Preservation, is glaciers matter for food, water, and livelihoods in mountains and beyond. So a lot of this has been said already before, but just to underline that being an FAO, our entry point is always looking at the water and food security nexus. We know that glacial loss threatens freshwater supplies for nearly 2 billion people, and that has far-reaching implications beyond mountains, but also for vulnerable mountain communities. And mountain communities are among the most food insecure. We have data up to 2017, but that data tells us that half of rural mountain dwellers in developing countries are suffering hunger or severe malnutrition. Changes in glacial snow melt affect the water availability, which is very important for agriculture, both in mountains and downstream lowlands. And we know that many local economies depend on healthy glaciers also for tourism, trade, and transportation. We believe that there are solutions, there are entry points that we need to build on, and certainly local and traditional knowledge can promote resilience, equity, and sustainability in mountain regions. Sustainable agriculture, agri-food systems can help adapt to the climate crisis and obviously the water scarcity that we are seeing. We also see that particularly in mountains, women are the primary managers of mountain resources, and they can play a key role both as stewards of biodiversity, in environmental protections, and in the social and economic development of mountain areas. Another important driving force that we have pushed a lot also during this International Year of Glacier Preservation is the role of youth. They have immense potential for innovation, for leadership in climate action. We have been supporting a Mountain Youth Hub, which is a dynamic platform dedicated to empowering mountain youth worldwide, and today has 300 members for 70 countries. We're also developing for the International Year of Glacier Preservation a youth strategy to ensure that the role of youth and their solutions for the future can be paired with also the scientific knowledge and the data knowledge that we are acquiring. Education is of course key for us. This year we hold every year a summer course, and the IPROMA course will focus on glacier preservation, equipping young professionals with skills needed to address the unique challenges facing mountain regions, especially in times of vanishing glaciers. And so I would like to thank you for this opportunity. I believe that obviously the key here is partnerships, collaborations, and synergies. I invite you all to, if you're not already, to become a member of the Mountain Partnership, and just reach out. It's very easy, so we can work together, mobilizing diverse stakeholders and collective efforts to protect our glaciers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sara. And I'm sure that more and more organizations will join this important partnership, because this is high time that this is taken seriously. My next speaker for today is Dr. Ignacio Deregibus, Executive Director, International Water Resources Association. He's an environmental policy and project management expert with a particular focus on water and sustainable development. Prior to IWRA, he worked with the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program of UNESCO, and as an environmental policy consultant with the OEC, he holds a Master in Public Affairs with concentration on sustainability from Sciences for Paris. So I'll just play his video. We have the video message from him.
Thank you to the organizers of this high-level policy dialogue, and to all the partners who continue to shine a light on the urgent and often overlooked challenge of glacier retreat.
Because
Thank you to the organizers of this high-level policy dialogue and to all the partners who continue to shine a light on the urgent and often overlooked challenge of glacier retreat. On behalf of the International Water Resources Association, it's an honor to join such a diverse and committed group of leaders, scientists, and practitioners working at the heart of water sustainability. Let me start by saying that we don't need to look far to see what's at stake. All across the globe, from the Andes to the Alps, to the Himalayas, or the Rockies, our glaciers are retreating. Slowly at first, then faster. Now in some regions at an alarming rate. These frozen reservoirs, carved by time, hold not only water, but the future of billions. Glaciers are more than majestic landscapes. They are critical water towers for half of humanity. They regulate river flow, sustain agriculture, and keep ecosystems alive during dry seasons. When we lose them, it's not just ice that disappears. It's life, livelihoods, and balance. Yet glacial protection rarely gets the spotlight it deserves in global water governance. Why? Because glaciers melt silently. No crushing storms, no newsworthy disasters. Just the slow drip of something vanishing before our own eyes. That's why today matters, because silence isn't an option anymore. At the International Water Resources Association, IWRA, we believe that glacial loss is not just a scientific concern or an environmental one. It's a water crisis, a development crisis, and a justice issue. And more importantly, it's a collaboration challenge. So how do we respond to something so vast and yet so invisible? We begin by bridging the most important gap of all, the one between science, policy, and practice. So let me show you how IWRA is working at this very interface. First, by advancing glacier science that informs decisions. Through partnerships with global research networks, we support the generation and dissemination of data for glacier mass balance, runoff projections, and local water dependency. But data alone doesn't save glaciers. We focus on aiming to translate that science into accessible knowledge for policy and planning. Because policymakers cannot act on what they don't understand, and practitioners can't adapt to what they cannot anticipate. Second, by convening dialogues that break silos. The recent Water International articles and related issues brought together hydrologists, glaciologists, indigenous voices, and water managers. The result? A shared vocabulary, and more importantly, shared solutions. Whether it's nature-based approaches like glacier-friendly restoration or policy frameworks for transboundary glacier governance, we're helping to shape ideas that can travel across sectors and borders. Third, by supporting local resilience through global learning. What works in the Peruvian Andes might inspire innovation in the Hindu Kush Himalaya. IWRA facilitates cross-regional learning, connecting water managers, mountain communities, and young researchers, because innovation doesn't always come from high-tech labs. Sometimes it comes from ancestral knowledge passed down into glacier-fed valleys. But let me be honest here, none of this is fast enough. The ice is still melting, which is why we need more than coordination. We need co-creation. We need joint monitoring frameworks between nations that share glacier-fed rivers. We need climate finance that explicitly targets glacier conservation. We need youth and indigenous knowledge holders in the room when policies are shaped. And we need to embed glacier protection in national water strategies, not just as a side note, but as a key pillar. Because every fraction of a degree of warming matters. Every investment in early warning, water storage, and community-based adaptation matters. And every partnership forged across disciplines, sectors, and ideologies, and even regions, becomes a glacier shield. So today, as we continue to celebrate World Water Day 2025, let's recognize that the story of glaciers is the story of water itself. Slow, quiet, but utterly essential. Let's protect the frozen future so the flowing present can endure. And let's remember, the melting point is not just a physical threshold, it's a political one, it's a social one, a moment where collaboration must not just be a value, but a verb. I wish you all inspiring exchanges, bold commitments, and strong partnerships as we move forward. May today's dialogue help carve the path, not just through eyes, but through action. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ignacio. My next speaker for this event and the last but not the least speaker is Dr. Mohammed Farooq Azam. He's currently working as Senior Cryosphere Specialist and Intervention Manager for Cryosphere Intervention at ICIMOD. He's an Associate Professor at IIT Indore. He earned his PhD from the University of Grenoble, France, and a master's from JNU New Delhi. He's a leading glaciohydrologist, is renowned for advancing Himalayan cryosphere research through field monitoring, modeling, and data analysis. He established critical long-term monitoring stations at Chota Shingri and Rangtung glaciers in data scarce regions. Dr. Azam, please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, all of you. And thanks to India Water Foundation for this invitation to put my views in this high-level policy dialogue. So, but frankly speaking, I don't find enough scope now adding something after all these nice detailed presentations and talks. So, I will try to give some background of glaciological research in the Himalaya. But before that, as we are celebrating this International Year for Glaciers Preservation, so I just came back from Paris, and it was really a fruitful event globally. And everybody is very much motivated. The governments are motivated, scientists are motivated, policymakers are motivated. So this is probably the right time. We need to establish these linkages between scientists and policymakers and politicians so that we can solve the issues related to frozen water in the Himalaya and other mountain ranges. So I think we all know now that the glaciers are vanishing. However, the rate is pretty different in different mountain ranges. If I give you an example, compared to Himalaya, we have lost almost 20% of Himalayan glaciers ice mass since 2000. And this mass loss is up to 40% in Pyrenees mountain range in close to Alps. If we also see the future of these glaciers, possibly all the glaciers in the Alps will be gone by the end of this century. And we are going to have almost 2/3 of glaciers gone from the Himalayan range as well. So if we see the Himalayan region particularly, because this is the region which is actually having maximum population which is depending on the meltwater. So altogether, we have from all countries around Himalaya, we have around 1.1 billion people who are actually partly catering their water requirements from these river systems in the Himalayan range. But if we specifically see these separately, so Brahmaputra river system and Ganga river system. So these river system, they mostly depend on their water from rainfall, from monsoon. So glacier melt contribution is pretty low in these regions. It is more important in this region because glacier and snow melt together, they are contributing up to 40% of overall river discharge. So any change in glacier and snow cover will directly impact the downstream communities by changing the available water volumes as well as changing the seasonality of available water in the river systems. But that does not mean the situation in Ganga and Brahmaputra is pretty safe. It is actually equally dangerous because the climate change is altering the monsoon dynamics in these regions, and the rainfall patterns are hugely altered because of climate change.
Dr. Azam? Dr. Azam? I think we lost connection from your side. Can you hear me, Sara?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, it means the connection is lost from Dr. Azam's side because we all are here and we can listen to each other. Dr. Azam, are you still there? Well, meanwhile, as soon as Dr. Azam joins us again, we'll give him an opportunity to complete his intervention anyway. So as we are coming close to the closing of the session, I request a quick closing comment from all of you. Shri Bharat Lalji, I would start from you. A quick closing comment from you, if you're still there. Shri Lal, are you there? I think he's left. Dr. Kumar? Dr. Kumar, you can give your closing comment. Then
Yeah. Undoubtedly, governments and agencies like UN, Intergovernmental Organization, and academia, etc., and other have a strong commitment to the environment, but it is the people's participation, as also Mr. Lal mentioned, that makes all the difference. Engagement with the partner organization is vital for a tangible result on the ground, and it is not just a top-down, but also a bottom-up approach, so that sensitizing, incentivizing, and galvanizing stakeholders. We have to bring the community, civil society, and state agencies together for the integrated cross-sectoral participation through cooperation, coordination, convergence. With all these tremendous efforts, a little more nudge is needed to invest in adequate infrastructure, adopt a circularity approach, elicit international cooperation to encourage efficiency, support technologies, and protect, restore these important ecosystems. I strongly feel that at this critical juncture, there is a dire need to redesign sectoral intervention. Now, these accelerators need to be filled with actions by all the actors and together with other sectors for complete water security is the transversely approach. Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Kumar. Yeah, Dr. Azam, you've joined us again. So please, you can finish your intervention, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm not sure when I lost the connection, and I'm really excuse me for that. The connection is not really good, I think, here at ICIMOD today.
No problem, we understand.
So I think most of the things have been covered already. So I was telling about this, how the glaciers are having different importance in different river basins. So if we talk about the Indus Basin, so basically what we are expecting is the runoff will increase up to 2050, and then the runoff will decrease. So that means we are going to have some issues related to more water, and then some issues after 2050 related to less water. So we have to be ready for that. How we design our infrastructure, how we manage our water resources for both more water as well as less water. At the same time, these are related to the glacier are receding, and they are actually developing some glacier lakes. And these lakes are now creating cascading hazards in the valleys. For instance, Sikkim disaster we had in October 23, and that is a GLOF disaster. But it's much more complicated that, because we also need to see how the triggers, how these such disasters triggered. One thing when we are talking about glaciers is the permafrost, which is completely lagging behind. And permafrost is nothing but the frozen ground. If we compare the permafrost coverage in the Himalayan region, it is roughly 16 times more than the glacier coverage. But all due attention is given to the glaciers, not to permafrost, because it is hidden, it is not visible with naked eyes. Even satellites cannot really see easily. So I think we need to focus on the permafrost as well, because not only it is important for water resources downstream, but also with permafrost thawing, disasters like landslides and disaster like Sikkim was triggered. So we need to give due attention to that. At the same time, we need to find the potentially dangerous lakes, and then we need to focus on early warning system development around these lakes, so that in case of any hazard, the downstream communities are able to move to safe places in time. So these are the major points actually, and I think I would summarize quickly what should be done in future as the concluding remark. So how we can tackle these situations, especially in the Himalayan region. So we need to focus on more on transboundary collaborations, as Dr. Lal suggested. We also need to include these issues in the global policy whenever we go to COP, whenever we go to some meetings like UNFCCC. So we discuss about these issues. We put these in first hand. And we try to link these issues not only in terms of the changes in glaciers and snow and permafrost, but also the impact on the downstream communities. So we need to translate science to the impact so that we can directly communicate with those people who cannot really understand science directly. And we need to develop some regional platforms like at ICIMOD, we are actually developing one HKH, Himalayan Hindu Kush Karakoram HKH Cryo Hub. So that is involving scientists from different countries in this Himalayan countries. Then one important thing what was discussed here was involvement of youth. We need capacity, especially in the Himalayan region. We are lacking scientists. And we need capacity, and we need to educate the people, educate the population, so that this issue is reaching to the people and they are taking it as their career option. In that line, ICIMOD is also putting a lot of efforts for capacity building in the region. And I think we also need to develop some science policy interfaces which are lacking, because as a scientist, I'm doing a lot of research, I'm publishing, but it is not really reaching to policymakers. And for that, I think we need to put some efforts. We need to possibly translate our complicated research in simple language and then communicate to the policymakers. So this is the concluding remark from my side. And thank you very much again for inviting me here. And excuse me again for these communication issues.
No problem, Dr. Farooq. We understand how technology works and devices are there anyway. So, Sara, quick closing comment.
Thank you. I think most of it has been said, and I think I can just reiterate that it works to be united as one voice. So also to look at the different processes, the different frameworks, the different dialogues, and have some clear messaging where we are really trying to increase the raising awareness of the role of glaciers in climate discussions. And by that, I also put mountains, because obviously mountains are part of the system. We need to request for coordinated cooperation, for more scientific data, but we have also a lot of diverse audiences. So what is important is that we manage to tailor our messaging to the different audiences, whether it's a technical audience, it's a policy audience, it's the general public. Everybody, every one of us can take action for glacier preservation. Everyone can do something, whether it's the students, the youth, which we've mentioned before. So it's really like trying to convene these different processes into some clear, simple messaging, which works for different audiences. And of course, we know that when we work together, we have a bigger force. So collaboration and partnerships are essential. We need to look at also transboundary partnerships, because water and climate change affects us all as whole. And of course, we need to also call for more focused investments and actions and programs, which is where we can make a difference. And going back to our previous panelists, ultimately the difference is to be made for the communities who are the most vulnerable. And by that, we mean the mountain communities, the lowland communities, the women, the youth, and really everyone that is affected. So that's our ultimate aim. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sara, for your wonderful closing comments. I have a few questions in the chat box that we would be sharing with the panelists who these questions are directed to, and we'll send you the answers through mail. So now, as we are ending this dialogue, there is something that I would like to say at the end of it, is that glaciers around the world are receding at an alarming rate due to climate change, human intervention, and posing serious threats to freshwater supplies, biodiversity, and global sea levels. To conserve and protect these vital ice reserves, a comprehensive approach is needed that involves reducing greenhouse gas emissions, protecting glacier ecosystems, promoting sustainable water management, strengthening policies, and supporting scientific research. One of the most effective ways to slow glacier melt is by addressing the root cause, and that is global warming. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions is crucial in this effort. Shifting to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, encouraging sustainable transportation options. Additionally, implementing stricter regulations on industries to curb emissions can have a substantial impact on the rate of glacial retreat. Another critical step is the protection of glacial ecosystems. Monitoring glacial health through satellite technology and scientific studies is also essential in assessing the rate of ice loss and formulating effective conservation strategies. Promoting water conservation techniques can help ensure that communities are less dependent on glacial meltwater. Raising awareness and strengthening climate policies are essential to drive collective action, which all of my speakers have stressed on. That capacity building and engaging youth and communities is an essential wheel of this aspect. Corporate accountability is also necessary as industries contribute significantly to global warming. Encouraging sustainable business practices and holding corporate responsible for their environmental impact. By working together at all levels, governments, businesses, and individuals, and coalitions and collaborations and co workings like this Mountain Partnership and many other partnerships that can be created, uh, can only make meaningful steps to slow glacier retreat and preserve these valuable ecosystems, which are vital not just for the present generations, but for future generations as well. Now, I take this opportunity to thank all my speakers who have taken out time to be present at this important dialogue from their different time zones, and especially my wonderful online audience who have taken the pain to join this event. And I hope they have benefited from the recommendations and contributions. Thank you so much. Thank you, WMO and my Mountain Partnership, for coming in collaboration for this event. Thank you so much, all of you. We look forward to having you at a next event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaskar.